Folks, we are live. And just in time for Mike's wife. My wife would be doing the same thing. Don't worry. It is.
You had to pop in and give me last
what
minute
it
advice.
is. But no Jim tonight. Jim is at Gen Con, but I am Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. No, Frog God is not sponsoring this. It's just the clean set that I had.
Yeah, Gary Con's not sponsoring either. This is what I want.
Yeah, no.
That's what I'm wearing today, folks.
Trust us. Below me.
I'm brought to you today by the color blue.
Blue.
Wow, you got blue, Greg? Good Lord.
Blue.
Where did you get blue?
Holding up the show with his sneezing fit. But no, taking the role of Jim Kitchen. Jim is at Gen Con.
I don't know how Jim does this. It's so heavy. Oh.
So Jim is at Gen Con. No Jim tonight. So Mr. Gunn, we'll put out the bad signal for you. Okay, just saying. And with us today is the one and only Greg Chubby Funster Christopher.
How's it going?
We got so by the way, Greg has
But these days it seems like he's got a
Kickstarter going. He's got a Kickstarter.
He's got a Kickstarter every month.
By the way, I have a short link.
Another one. He has one on the
No, this is my first one, dude.
Yeah, he's not Rob Conley, who does one every year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, I usually just release the products on drive-through and just promote. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You know, I forget that. That's true.
So, and by the way, Greg, I love your background.
Thank you.
Very evocative, folks. If you haven't checked out the Kickstarter, but and like I said, we ran a little late. Mike had a sneezing fit. We were tempted to go live with Mike sneezing into the screen, but that would have been like flashbacks to my youth, and I didn't want that. I had it happen at a game table one time. Sights that should never be seen again. Hysterical, but no.
By the way, today is Tenkar's birthday, and I don't know. Have we ever had a show on your
birthday? I don't think it's one of it rotates every 6 or 7 years, and we haven't been doing it quite that long. So it's my birthday.
3 or 4 years just for his birthday. You know, he retired early, so he's only 37.
I retired early. I didn't retire that early. I am 58. All right, I'm just saying. With my, but I think every week I'm going to show off the length of my hair because it's now.
Oh God,
the hair is like a new obsession. I mean,
yeah, it is. It's like 14 months. Listen,
this is the first year you've talked about your hair like at all that I can remember.
No.
And then it's been like nonstop hair discussion.
When I first retired, my two goals were a goatee and a ponytail.
Oh dear.
Things I could not do while working. I could do the goatee. That came in real quick. But after like 7 months, my niece, Shannon, was like, Uncle, yeah? She goes, that thing ain't happening on the back of your head. Just get it cut. So now I second attempt. We'll see how long it goes. I can look like Frank Metzner. Come on. You know, all the women love that. They follow him around at cons. It's true, folks. I'm not lying. They do. Just throwing that out there.
If you get a chance, look at the EggCon pictures of Frank taking at EggCon. Frank was styling this weekend. I'm not. You got to look at. I can't even describe it. He looked like a character out of Superfly. I'm serious. He had a giant hat and I can't even describe. I'll try to find a picture I can send to you.
If you were making this outfit for a game, how much of a charisma bonus would you give? Plus 8.
At least 8, because he could. If there's a lady anywhere within 100 yards, she would gravitate towards Frank's outfit. I'm going to try to find. I'll send it to you, Eric. You don't have to post if you don't want to, but you'll see it and you'll be like, "Holy Magoli!" And so Frank was style. I didn't get to talk to Frank. We can talk about EggCon a little bit later on if you want to, but we're going to talk about Greg first, and then I'll relate my my weekend at EggCon, which was fun. We had a great
The
time.
one and only Alan Hammock is in the room. Very cool.
And I ran through for the first time ever. I ran through Alan's Ghost Tower with Alan DMing. Is that a bullet point or what? I mean, that was awesome.
Very nice.
That was awesome. Yeah. We survived too. We had one member almost die, but for the most part we survived. I think Alan took it a little easy on us, but it was tough, man. There was a couple of spots in there it was dicey.
Frank was Colonel Sanders.
That was great though. I don't usually play in games, and so this is a fun con for me because I actually played in 2 games. I played Jeff Talanian's Hyperborea game also, but no, I had a great time. It was fun. Saw a lot of friends. It was a really fun small con. If you like your cons that are under 500 people, and you just hang out and you can talk to people. Well, I had a long conversation with Jeff Easley. I haven't talked to Jeff Easley that long in a long time. Because when he comes, he hasn't been to our con in a few years, and when he comes, he's just always so busy. It's hard to get into Word Edgewise. People always ask him to sign. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get. I got on a tangent there. This is tonight's about Greg. It's not about me. Not about
it's
me.
Always about you, Mike. But we got to pivot to Greg. I mean, that's
it's about Greg and his Kickstarter.
So, since we do not have Jim is usually the man who steers I don't want to say the interrogation, but he's the one that will elicit all the viable and valuable facts from our guests.
Right.
You're relying on myself and Mike tonight, so I apologize for that.
If only you had some experience with Kickstarters, Eric.
I have absolutely zero idea. I know nothing about birthing no babies, but in any case, or Kickstarters.
No.
But this is your first Kickstarter, though.
It is.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's
usually
great.
I don't, because I've the kind of overhead, I guess is the word, like the amount of extra work and not just in setting up the Kickstarter, but in doing all the marketing, and there's all the timing involved and everything like that. I've just released things onto DriveThru and done my own promotion, and it's worked out pretty well for a while. But the question is, eventually I said, I'm going to throw this in and see if it's worth it, because it's not just like a pure profit comparison, right? Like there's a lot of extra work involved in doing the Kickstarter. So it's a question of whether it's worth it in the opportunity cost way. But I will answer Alan's question. So the basic pitch is that for a long time, Vampire has been outside of the OSR as a very complex system that does not get played in the same way that classic D&D gets played. And Shadow City is a Shadowdark architecture, Shadowdark structured game that brings Vampire into the OSR to run like a D&D, like a game of classic D&D. And it is a brutal site crawl with, you're trying to control, locate, you're trying to take stuff, you're trying to kill monsters and take their stuff, and it's different from the way that Vampire plays. So a lot of people will be like, oh, I'm not really into Vampire. Like you might be into Vampire played like this, and it runs like playing a game of Shadowdark or OSC or Labyrinth Lord or whatever your flavor of old school game is. And it's very quick, it's brutal. It's nothing like playing Vampire the Masquerade.
When you say brutal, explain what you mean by brutal. You said brutal twice. I want to know.
Well, yeah, in the same way that Shadowdark is brutal, like you could end up with very, very few hit points and get killed very quickly. And it's okay if you get killed very quickly, because we can just make you a new character in 5 minutes and you're good to go. There's no problem. Everything is run off of a super simple basis, and you can just make a new character and roll with it. and it's actually it's totally fine for you to die. You don't have it. You don't need to have any emotional investment in this character any more than you would in a typical OSR game.
So Fugly wants to know: do you plan for werewolf, mage, and other World of Darkness stuff?
I get this question. It's number one question. I am more passionate about vampire than the others, but I'm not against the others. There's a friend of mine, Luke, who's working on some of his. He wanted to try to make it so that he could run it as like a werewolf game. He hasn't brought anything fully to market yet, but he's been working on that. I do everything based on my passion for the particular project. So if I, get that bee in my bonnet and I start writing it, then it could come out. If the more people tell me how much they want to do it, the more we talk about it, the more I'll have it at the top of my mind. But right now, I'm just trying to get the first kid out of the womb.
Fair enough. Now, you've been writing, publishing games for over a decade now, right?
Yeah, 15 years almost.
Wow. Holy crap.
Yeah, Synapse was like 2010, back to that first one.
Wow. I still have a copy of the PDF on my hard drive somewhere.
You're one of the few.
Oh.
I had somebody come to me just a couple months ago and ask for a copy of Statecraft because they couldn't find it anywhere, and they heard that I wrote this game called Statecraft. It was back during my free period when I was still learning how to do stuff.
But here's the other thing: your games are not priced out of the impulse buy range.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, when your stuff goes deal of the day, especially your stuff for Shadow Dark, the prices are ridiculously impulsive, but they're good prices anyway. They're not. It's not like you're trying to charge somebody $25 for a PDF or more. We've seen this.
Yeah. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I just have a different price model than I think some people have, and I'd rather make up in volume what I lose in, what I'm losing by not having that higher price, I guess is the way to phrase it. If you charge $40 for a PDF, you're not going to get as many sales as if you charge $20 for a PDF. That's just reality. Yeah.
But not only that, you're also building up a customer base. The number of customers that are going to buy your PDF at $8, $10 is going to be magnitudes greater than those that would buy the same PDF for $40. But now people get to see your quality. They look at it and go, "Oh, I like this. I like this take on Dark Sun. I like this take on Skyrim."
That's my philosophy. Yeah, I'd rather get out there. One of the things that I talked about, I think with Tim Shorts on a stream, was like that I intentionally priced down my part of the print on demand sometimes, so that there'll be more sales of the print on demand, because like if it's $8 for a PDF but only $11 for a soft cover, a lot of people will pick up the soft cover. And so I might be losing a few bucks by setting up that price differential, but those people then go get the POD and then take a picture and post it in the Shadow Dark Facebook group or on the Shadow Dark Discord or whatever, and then that acts as marketing for me. So it's not a loss in my view.
So John Miller says, "I backed the Kickstarter. I'm not planning on playing the game, to be honest, but Greg's rules for sandbox, faction, and domain-based play in his city sounds great."
Well, I think he may play it after he gets it, because it's like an OSR dungeon crawling game. It's not what people might think in their head when they first think of vampire, right? So I'm trying to change that. Like right now, for instance, Forgotten Realms is played by old school people and by fourth edition people, fifth edition people. There's a ton of different rule complexity levels that you could play in Forgotten Realms. But if you play Vampire, it seems like it's always this very high level of complexity. And so I'm just cutting it down to that lower level, making it so that it runs really, really fast and light and quick. And it's fun. John also asked if I did play testing for this. I did my own home group and Dungeons and Dyslexia's group play tested it with me, and you work out a lot of things in play testing. I wanted to make sure that there were things that I was thinking I had forgotten to do, or wasn't thinking about, and I could put that in. One of the things was somebody asked about what's the timeline for certain technologies coming available, and so because of that, I ended up making a spread in the book that describes has a chart of every year from 81 to today, and it shows all of the things that you would want to know were being invented. For instance, Blockbuster Video isn't even invented until 85. So when the game starts in 1981, there aren't even movie rentals. That's how different.
Oh, there's movie rentals. You went to the mom and pop store back then. We had one down the block from our house, but Blockbuster was nowhere to be found. You had to go. Right. You had to go to the corner store, which is called something like Joe's Rentals, and it was sketchy. Sometimes they were sketchy too.
Yeah, but like people don't think about how long it was before they had Blackberries, before they have iPads, before they have all these technologies. So I have a list of all things in the book like that. There were things like balance considerations that had to be played out at the table. We had several things that changed. One of the major things that changed gameplay wise was that originally I had the game uses two time scales. There's like an hourly time scale and a rounds time scale. So when you wake up to start your night, it's in hours, right? So that you might say, I'm going to spend an hour hunting to get more blood back. I'm going to spend an hour patrolling our neighborhood to make sure there aren't predators that are coming into our territory. You do that. And I kind of was handling it freeform when in the original version, and going through the playtesting, I decided to turn it into like actions that you could take. So there's like 5 kind of pre-described actions that you can take for that hour. And you can run it freeform and say, I'm going to spend 15 minutes going down to the store and getting this thing, and then I'm going to spend 15 minutes going and doing this other thing. But if you want to, if you don't know what you want to do for an hour, if you don't know, you can pick one of these things and just go with it. So stuff like that. You say, what do you guys want to do? And they don't have a good answer. They aren't sure how to respond. You say, okay, I need some kind of framework here to help them figure it out.
So Greg, I'm going to just ask some generic questions here because I'm one of those people that I'm like the guy said I'd buy it and maybe not play it because I love your rules. I think you have some really, really interesting rules that can be ported over to other systems. But one of the things I think is interesting is you make a point that when you said brutal, the reason I was focused on brutal is because if playing the original Vampire, it was really impossible to die. At least I think it was. I would see people it wasn't really built into the game even. Where you could be destroyed or die or whatever. That wasn't even a consideration. So I think it's interesting that that is a consideration. It is something, like it says here, to keep you on the edge of your seat. Why did you decide to make the game a lot more, deadly?
Well, I didn't approach it from a how do I fix vampire perspective. I approached it from these tools that I was working with constantly in Shadowdark, and I said this would run really well in the vampire frame. I I came to it. The main thing was figuring out how to you could randomly generate these cities and site locations, so that you could build out any amount of space that you needed on the fly. Because one of the hardest things running a modern game, not just Vampire, but any kind of modern game, is the size of the structures. You know, like you think about drawing a dungeon map for LaGuardia Airport. You know, like holy crap, you know, like it would be insane. So you needed GM, like I've been talking about it with a lot of people. It's like these are like GM support tools to make it so that running the game is almost effortless for you as the GM. I was doing, after the first couple of sessions, I was running almost all the playtest stuff with no prep at all.
Really?
It was set up to be, I could just run it with no prep. I could roll on the fly, and that's what's in that room. That's what's in that building. There was no need for me to be stumped about anything, and I could build anything I needed using the tools that are in the game.
So you play a vampire, and so if you play with the group, you're all vampires, right? You're all. So how on earth, what on earth could challenge you? I mean, if you had 5 vampires, I don't, in 1981, I don't see a way that you could be challenged, because the technology that exists back then just isn't enough to be able to, you know, there's not anywhere to track you. There's not, you know, it just seems like technology makes it really difficult to challenge a group of vampires.
The vampires in Shadow City are not anywhere near as durable as vampires in Masquerade. And so some, you know, you might have 8 to 12 hit points, and 2 or 3 humans could F you up real quick if they get some good hits. In the playtest with my Saturday night group, they went into they think of it like a dungeon room, right? They go into a dungeon room, and there were 12 gang members there, and they were just unarmed humans, but they had a, you know, +1 to hit or something, right? And they just ran up, and just by sheer amount of punches, the guys were getting beat down. Now, the advantage of being a vampire is that you can heal that damage, but it starts to get obvious that you're a vampire, right? Like if I hit you with a baseball bat and your arm heals right there while I'm watching, then that is a problem. And the pressure in Shadowdark for darkness, in Shadow City, it's the pressure of humans. Anytime you do anything that attracts the attention of humans, it starts to ratchet up game mechanics to go bad for you. So if you do something, like I'll use the gang members, so they had to use vampire powers to deal with these gang members, and all they could do was escape. Like I think they killed 2 of them, but then they had to retreat. And some of the powers were like, you know, like one of them turned into mist, I think, and disappeared. That's a power for one of the classes. And they now had 10 gang members that knew the truth. Every time you go to bed in the morning, I remember it's vampires, they're going to bed at dawn. Every time they go to bed and there's people out there who have witnessed this thing, when they rise the next night, it doubles. And there's like a cost of getting rid of it, kind of like atonement in a lot of game systems, right? In Shadowdark as well. So like the cost of covering up, you know, getting the news media to not cover it, beating up, intimidating people, whatever they had to do to cover up, the cost just keeps doubling. So if they had let those 10 guys get away, the next night it would be 20 people that would need to be suppressed, and then 40 people, and then 80 people. Yeah, so if you get too high, too many people are aware of what you did, there's an apocalypse timer, and you are gaining points on that. So the more of these violations that take place, the more this apocalypse timer ticks away, until eventually when it hits 10, the humans realize that vampires are real, and then they murder you all. Right? So
let's say that. So let's say that when they were fighting the gang members, what if they killed all 10 of them? They kill all the 10 of them and they leave. would that set the timer then too, or are all witnesses gone and the police just think, man, this is a nasty gang
That's
fight
right. That's
here.
what would have happened. Yeah.
So you have a mechanism. So basically, there's an incentive to
That's
clean
right.
up the
And
mess.
if you don't clean up the mess, the other vampires in the city that are more powerful than you will kill you to cover up your mess. Yeah, because they don't want that trouble either.
Yeah, they don't want any trouble. Yeah. Okay, I like that. I like that mechanism.
Tybeard has a good question for you.
Yeah.
Would generation tools be useful for modern espionage RPGs?
I totally think so. Here, Eric, I'll do a share of how the sitemaps work.
Yeah.
And just show Ty how it works. So here we go. All right, so it uses a string of nodes, the black nodes. It's in a linear array here, but you could just as easily turn it into a loop. The hospital that I made had 2 columns of black nodes, like 2 banks of elevators in the hospital, and then it was longer horizontally. So you can shape the nodes however you want. Each of the black nodes is controlling movement, right? So here there's this node type chart, right? So you're rolling a d6. So it might be an exposed node, like an open lobby, right? It might be controlled, that you have to have a key card or some kind of credential to access. It might be narrow and confined, like an office, right? Tight hallways. So the nodes determine how you can move through the structure. And then on each branch that you draw out, and there's rules for how to draw out the branches, you set up a type. This is like the dungeon room type in Shadowdark, right? So it might be vacant. It might be a group of mortals. This was the 2d6 mortals. That was how they got the 12 gang members. They got boxcars. So it was tough, right? And then there are charts, like in Shadowdark, to customize each of those things. So you end up getting the example. Yeah, I use the name from Die Hard, right? Nakatomi Tower. So this is a tower. I made, you can call this level the garage and the first floor, and then they go up to the, you could have it, since it's a node map, it doesn't have to be perfectly adjacent, so that you could have the elevator will only let you get off at the 3rd floor or the 30th floor because they've locked down for the day or whatever, right? So you build it all up and have the rooftop at the top. So moving through the structure becomes like a dungeon crawl, and you could use this for any modern setting. You could set it up like espionage. You could say you need to break into this research facility, and then just draw the nodes and draw the branches. But I wanted it to be simple enough that you could draw it yourself, just like drawing on a graph paper, drawing out a dungeon, right? I don't like the idea that people feel, especially with VTTs nowadays, they feel like they have to have some really cool graphic in order to represent their map. So I wanted it to, you could just draw it out however you wanted, and you could have I recommend you have all the nodes connected to each other, but you could mix them into some weird pattern. That's all creativity on the GM.
Pretty damn cool. All right, hold on. I'll bring back.
So you have an incentive not to create a big giant brouhaha. So what would be what kind of plot lines would take place in a vampire campaign? I mean, what are these guys trying to do? I mean, obviously they're not trying to just murder people indiscriminately and bring down the wrath of elder vampires and the humans upon them. So what would be a kind of a plot line you might run?
The city gets generated on a hex map, and like the nodes, you can draw it yourself. So you roll dice, and then you draw kind of districts around it, like in the Shadowdark book for making a town, right? Anybody who's familiar with that? And then once you have that layout, each of the dice is telling you what the district is. It's a D20 table for districts or neighborhoods. Sorry. So the neighborhoods are spread out, and then each neighborhood has a number of points of interest. And if you control all the points of interest in the neighborhood, you are getting like a blood tax out of that by being in control. That's like your territory. You're able to feed on those people without as much interference. So every night you're getting free resources by controlling that. Well, that means all of the NPC vampires also want to control neighborhoods, right? So you're at odds with all of the NPC vampires, with any other creature. There's a whole bestiary of angels, demons, werewolves, fairies, a whole bunch of mortals, other types of undead like poltergeists and corporeal undead. There's animals like guard dogs or alligators. If you're in a New Orleans, you might have an alligator in some place. You could have. I'm trying to think of there's one more that I'm forgetting. And mages. So there's a whole bunch of different mages that have different. There's like a witch type mage, and there's a enchanter type mage with more mind magic and so on. And all those things are in the city with you. So you're trying to control these territories. You think about it, you're an animal you're a predator that needs territory, like a pack of wolves would need territory, right? So you're trying to build up as much territory as you can and defend it against the other vampires. And there's a whole vampire kind of social structure where they're in control. There's rules. I did not include any of the clan stuff as lore in this game, but there is a system for creating clans. The GM can create any clans that they want, or they don't have to. Right? You don't have to have any kind of vampire clans. And the same system for making that can be used to make human organizations like the CIA or ATF or FBI or whatever, some kind of vampire hunter society, things like that. And then those, by creating a faction, they get like a shared pool of talents and abilities, so they all have some kind of edge over just a regular person or a vampire or whatever they are.
Damn.
Yeah. And the game is done. So as soon as the Kickstarter is over on the 21st, there's like a period of time, as we all know, where it takes Kickstarter a while to send you a list of all the people and confirm the money and everything. And as soon as I get that, you'll have everything within like an hour or two.
Another Dan, by the way, oh God, Thraxis says, I've been playing around with making a solo GM with ChatGPT, and I think this game might be a good fit to test.
That sounds awesome. I think it could be a solo play game for sure.
Yeah, well, what happened to Matt Jackson? He should be playtesting this.
Well, Matt's a sensitive old man, you know.
I know.
Oh, wow.
Gotta watch out for ladders.
Yeah, the price here, I am not a complex person, and I like just a simple thing. So you get $20 gets you in, and you get the PDF. You also get the option to do it's like a coupon through drive-through to print the soft cover or the hard cover or both at the cost of printing and shipping. So it's not that, I can't control those costs anyway under any circuit, even normal releases for me in the past. Yeah, that's the part of the price I can't control. So the $20 is the price I can control. That's what I get. And then you get the PDF, you can print it, you can do whatever you want or not. If you just want the PDF, pay $20 and you're done.
So apparently Death Angels is trying to talk you into Supernatural, Buffy, and Constantine type of game.
He could try. I don't know. I have limited bandwidth, man. I'm just one man. But yeah, and you could also add on. There's 6 of my PDFs that you can get for half price as just add-ons to the Kickstarter.
There's some good ones out there too.
Yeah.
He's got some good. There's some really good
50
stuff.
off.
Go down a little bit, Eric. Go down a little bit.
Deal of the day type of pricing.
Yeah, deal of the day type price. Yeah, all 6 of those.
Oh, stretch goals.
Yep. So if we get to 10K, everybody will get that kind of print at cost coupon for the hardcover player companion. And then I'll be very happy if we get to 20K. It'll be for the GM companion. Same
Wow. Damn. And yes, so drive-through is doing your fulfillment.
Yeah.
And it's written, folks. It's written.
Yeah. And
that's the best part. It's done. We're done here.
Turn off my special background here for a second.
And it's already funded. It's written and it's funded. It's already funded.
Yeah. So I have the proofs. We're good. It's done. When it closes,
it's done.
It's done.
Yeah, everybody go home.
Yeah.
It's finished.
Death Angels. He's not a man. He's a machine. He's a man. Trust me on this. He's a man.
Yes. PAC.
Man. So you're
Yes, man.
So let's say I have I've got Shadow Rim and I've got Shadow Sun, and I'm mainly a fantasy guy. So what's your pitch to get me to play? Just to try this. Just give it a try. What will be your pitch for this?
Think of it like an action movie where you're putting together your team of guys, and you could run it as a one-shot, Mike, and have your guys go into one of those node maps, and you're there to just shoot up the place, right? You're there to get a thing. You're there to get out in and out and just run it like a one-shot dungeon encounter. And
right,
it'll be an exciting, quick thing. You can test out the system. You can see how it goes. I think a lot of people would appreciate it more than what they imagine vampire in their head, because what they imagine vampire in their head is what I'm trying to innovate and change and bring into the OSR. They're imagining it being this game with a very complex character creation, and it's very abstract and political and slow, and it gets into how I feel this way, and my vampire is torn with their emotions of the past, whatever, or something like that. I don't care about any of that stuff. I just want to grab a gun and go get into a fight and go get the thing. I want to say this is my neighborhood now, and then shoot that guy in the head, and I win. Right? That's what I want to do.
And you're a vampire, which is awesome. On top of it, yeah, you're not screwing around. You're a vampire too.
What was the part that I was gonna?
So
yeah, I'm gonna do another share.
So give us an idea.
So this is based on the I think it's called the adventure generator in Shadowdark, but this task list, task generator that I've created here for Shadow City, you just roll 3d20s and you've got yourself a one-shot quest, right? So Eric, roll 3d20s.
Okay. Oh, let's see. Do I have a D20 on my desk?
Yeah, let's see. Where's my dice? Oh, here's my. Right. I'll do it. I got dice here. All right, 3 die 20s. 19. 19 and 6.
All right, so you have to befriend the Ancilla, which is kind of a mid-range vampire in terms of level. And the 6 is that doing so will require you to commit a violation that will bring down the heat from the humans.
Oh, ouch. Oh, man.
Yeah, so just like that.
I don't like this. I already don't like this task. This task sucks.
Murder the mobster, and the problem is that another coterie of vampires is involved, going after the same mountain monster. So are you going to be able to get the guy first? Right? Or federal agents could be involved, or he could be protected by a powerful ally, or all this stuff. You just roll 3d20s, you're good to go.
I like it. But how about you got to go kill a gang leader, but the FBI is already watching the guy for federal crimes, and so you got to kill him in a way the FBI is not going to be able to catch you later and not be able to connect you to the crime, or find out you're a vampire for that matter.
Yeah. So all these kind of random tools are built in to provide massive support for the GM to just make anything they need. They don't, you can run it, like I said, no prep. You could have made those 3d20 rolls 5 minutes before the session. We're good to go.
Right.
That.
It requires. It sounds like it requires a little bit of GM improv. Which, if you're a GM, that's not an issue. You saw I just came up with an adventure that quick, and I already have some I would have some interesting variations of that actually. So yeah, you're going to have to use a little bit of your imagination, but for the most part, that should get I would suggest rolling up 2 or 3 of those and picking one you like, and then running with that one.
And there's also there's 20 neighborhood types, like airport, university, residential, financial, whatever. Each one of those has a D100 encounter table. So you get not just like combat encounters, but tons of random encounters that would just be complications into your life, right? So you're walking. The example I've used this example a couple of times now. You're going through the airport, and you come across a Soviet defector, and you now have a choice of like, do you help this guy? Do you try to take him and sell him to the government? Do you try, how do you handle that you've run into this Soviet defector? And there's flexibility in it, just like in any old school game with running your encounters. It could go a whole, but that could be your whole night dealing with that guy, right? Trying to find, we're gonna try to smuggle this guy into the this neighborhood and hide him and try to sell him to the CIA, or we're gonna kill him publicly and bring down the heat for that. Whatever it is, like, it's on you guys.
This does, so Ty had asked earlier, does this have any applications for modern espionage? This sounds incredibly useful for a modern espionage type game. A lot of the same issues could be applied to, without the supernatural or without the vampires or whatever. You could apply it to any kind of espionage.
And the degree of, like, if you want to run it where there's only humans and vampires and there's none of the other supernatural stuff, you could do that. If you wanted to run it where there were, fairies was the main thing that was a problem for the vampires, and there aren't really any werewolves, and there aren't really any angels and demons or anything like that, but that fairies is the main thing, you could do that. Like, whatever it is that you want to customize, just like in D&D. How many times could you run a D&D game where the only monster was gnolls or something? It'd be easy.
Right. Not only that, this would be really good. This is a good system for like a Dresden Files type game.
Good. I've had a couple of people comment that they think they could run the Dresden Files with it.
I'm a big Dresden Files fan, not of the game but of the books, and I see a lot of applications here. I think this would be really good. I've never played the actual Dresden Files RPG, so maybe that would cover it better. But this seems like this.
Well, I own the Dresden Files RPG, but it would. First off, it's kind of like Fate, but but not only that, it doesn't have the ability built into it to literally generate an adventure on the fly that's going to get your group moving. And a lot of times that inspiration is lacking, especially when you move on from your fantasy tropes, right? I mean, we've been playing D&D for decades, And writing a D&D adventure is like second nature. It's probably been done 9,000 times before. But when you step out of your comfort zone, having tools like this is awesome.
Yeah. I actually didn't get a haircut, Mr. Gunn, but I do try to change things a little bit. It's very ego draining to see yourself on live streams multiple times a week. I'm sure these two guys know what I'm talking about.
Not me. I look at myself. I think, damn, that guy is handsome and he's hot.
Thank you, Mike.
So I don't really know. I don't know what you're talking about.
I really do appreciate those beautiful birthday wishes you just gave me by telling me that. But you are my once a week work spouse. You are not my spouse. You don't get those benefits, man.
Wow. That wasn't. Come on, man. I was away from my wife for a week. I did not think about taking her.
That explains a lot. All right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I did not think about you in that way one time the whole week.
Sure. You want to?
Plus, I was rooming with Zach.
We know.
You're rooming with Zach.
I was rooming with Zach.
That is true.
Yeah, I was rooming with Zach. I had my needs taken care of, so I was fine.
God help us, each and every one of us.
Well, so you got this down. This looks like this is going to be a slam dunk project here. It's already funded, already done.
Yeah.
What do you have next? You've always got stuff.
I have always got something next. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm working on a very broad Islamic fantasy. So Al-Qadim is focused on just Arabia, right? It doesn't. You can't go into Al-Qadim and find a lot of Turks or Berbers or Mongols or a wide range. Islam spread a long way over a long period of time. There's all kinds of different ideas that are caught up in it, and I'm writing a setting that is covering that whole world. It's a massive map. Cover. It's the size of a Warlords of Gavardia map, if you remember that. Like, it's huge, 99 by 99 hex map, and it's going to be a Shadow Dark setting. I've been commissioning the art in just the past few weeks for the parts that I've already written. I've got a bunch of artists working on, because it's very hard to get stock art that fits a new, unique setting idea, right? So starting, I've got cash already from stuff earlier this year that's paying for that. I always like to have everything done when it goes to. That's why I've kind of avoided Kickstarter for a while. I want it to be done and then I just hand it to you. I don't want to be like, I need this money to pay for the art to do the thing. I just don't like being in that position. So I've been setting it up. I've gotten the character generations written. I've got a lot of the setting material written. It's going to be a 2-book set that has the character. It has a book for players that has the character generation and equipment and spells, and then a gazetteer that's kind of like what the players already know about the world, right? And that way the GM can just count on them doing that. If they have a question, they can just look in their book. They don't have to constantly be asking about different parts of the world. Everything that you kind of already know is written in the player book. And then the GM book will be everything to run the setting. And it's not going to be as detailed as Terra Invictus, but it will be kind of at a Shadowrim level of detail out in the world. But it's a long range project, but that's the main thing I'm spending my time on right now.
So for you, a long range project is what, 3-4 months out?
At least 6 months, probably.
Whoa!
I know, it's crazy.
You're like Rob Conley Jr. at that point. You can't.
Well, it's a 2-book set, and it has a lot of custom commissioned art. It's gonna be different. I got to keep moving onward and upward, Carrie's in the chat. Carrie is in my Saturday night game. Carrie Harrison. he pushed me to run. We were going to run Gods of the Forbidden North, and he wanted it to be Ambition and Avarice 1 as the rule set because it's
Really?
It's closest to old school essentials, and so we've been running it like that. The spells are a little bit stronger. Mechanically, kind of movement is a little bit differently. There's some other things, but I've been kicking their ass on a lot of things. Gary, I'll since he made the joke about me playing more Crusader Kings, Carrie went into the first dungeon in Gods of the Forbidden North, and they got pretty far in, and then there was a pit trap, and he stepped on it, but he managed to pull back and didn't fall in, and then he jumped over it, and on the other side there was a poison dart trap that killed anybody.
That classic.
Right?
Classic, yeah.
So he falls down and dies, and then he got a new character, and when they came back to the dungeon, he forgot where the pit trap was, and his new character fell down the pit trap and died. It was the shortest life cycle for any character I've ever seen in one of my games. It was brutal. So
bet the whole session.
Well done, Carrie.
Good job.
That is classic. My God.
The whole session rolling up characters.
Yep. The new character, they were on the coast. The new character arrived by the form of a fortuitously timed shipwreck, walked out of the shipwreck into the dungeon, death. Right away. It was brutal.
Wow, I'm gonna have. I actually. Go ahead.
No, I had a player one time. We were a very low level game. Had a player, and this is a veteran player too. And we were just kind of running we had one of those guys weekends where all get together. Hey, let's play D&D. This we're older, not when we're teenagers. Let's play D&D like 2 days in a row. We're all just gonna play D&D. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fun. So we did that. So we all right. We get together, roll up characters. We get ready, go to the dungeon. We're all shooting the shit and talking and laughing and cutting up. We get in the dungeon. The first battle's an orc. I asked this player, his name was Doug, what's your armor class? He had forgotten to buy any armor. He was a fighter, forgot to buy any armor or weapons.
What did he buy?
They were just shooting the shit. He wasn't paying attention. He was like, they're all talking and no, this and that. Remember we used to play this and we did this. Yeah. And they're all okay, we're all ready to go. Yeah, okay, I'm ready to go too. And the orc ran him through with a sword, armor class 10, hit him, killed him. And the group had a good laugh for that one. That was awesome. And I was like, wait a second. So you got to imagine this really happening. So you guys are all walking, you got your armor, your swords. You didn't notice the fighter next to you who was nude and didn't even have a rock in his hand. Nobody said a word.
I figured he was drunk. It all worked out fine. Yeah.
He was a very passionate Celt who just believed. He
didn't even have. So we just started going. He didn't even have clothes on. He didn't buy anything. We said you're basically in a loincloth. Anyway, it was hilarious. That was the quickest I ever had somebody die in one of my dungeons. We walked in, orc hit him, dead. All right, this time you're going to buy armor and you're going to buy a sword.
Please do us a favor.
That's back in the old days. That happened a lot more than it happens now because now it's all about narrative. We must have a narrative. What is your background, sir? You would run through 2 or 3 guys a session back in the old days.
That's right.
You kids don't know how it was back then. It was crazy.
Well, especially at first level. Once you hit second level, then the character had more survivability, but I guess that's why Goodman did the funnel, right? I mean, 0 level is essentially first level characters for any other game. So I'm trying to see if I missed it. Oh, all right. Alan. He fell in the pit and impaled himself on the ribs of his previous character.
That's a good one. I like it.
Thank you.
Brutal.
Just be glad he didn't try to use the grappling rules. It's a good. All right, I'm new. I'm going to grease myself up and attack this orc. I'm going to break his neck. I'm going to get him a stranglehold.
So, folks, another reminder: the link to the Kickstarter is on the bottom of the screen. 10 cards. There's tavern.game/SC. for Shadow City. And it'll take you right to Greg's Kickstarter, currently sitting with 152 backers. And now it launched when? Yesterday? This morning?
Tuesday at 4:00. It was a little. I know that you're supposed to kind of launch at 10, but Dungeons and Dyslexia did the play test with me, and he's on UK time.
Okay.
So we had done it at 4, so we could launch it together and turn it on and watch the number go up. And he gave away a couple of books if we funded within an hour. We ended up funding in 30 minutes, so there was a little giveaway.
Did you hold hands as you watch it together and then look at each other's eyes?
No, I didn't do that.
Okay.
Well, it would have to be virtual. You got the pond between.
He's a long way away.
Oh, that's right. That would have been hard. Yeah, that'd been really hard. But so personal recommendation. I didn't even know who Greg was 2 years ago, and he was on Eric's show, or you did that. You guys did that Friday night show you used to do. And
yep.
I thought, Shadow, Shadow Sun. That's I hate Dark Sun. It sucks. And but you guys, I was like, that sounds cool. I went and bought it, and I read through it. I go, this is better than Dark Sun. It was. I was like, I would play this. I thought Dark Sun sucked. I would play Shadow Sun, and then I started buying all Greg's stuff. So he's well deserved fame here, folks. You need to get Greg's stuff is very well written. It's really it's very what's the word? Play ready. Is play ready a word? It's something you can pick up, and if nothing else, you can read it and get some great ideas. Because I did from Shadow Sun. I got some great ideas from that. And I'm a huge Skyrim fan, as Greg knows, and so I bought Shadowrim. That's if you want to play Skyrim, there you go. It basically is the best way you can play Skyrim. Now, I would have loved it 10 years ago when Skyrim came out. I don't know if I can get a Skyrim campaign going now, but I would have loved that when Skyrim was brand new, because I was everything. I was obsessed with Skyrim.
It was deal of the day a few days ago, and got a lot of 160 people picked it up on deal of the day, and it's the same price as on deal of the day if you add it to your Shadow City order.
It's the closest thing you get to Skyrim without violating IP. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Because it basically you can make it Skyrim. It's pretty much Skyrim.
Well, Grumpy Mr. Gunn says, I own several of Greg's Shadow Dark products. They are very good.
They are very good.
Much appreciated.
Well, do you want to? So we have Greg on here. We talked about his Kickstarter. Do you want to roll into some items of interest this week? Because I know Greg is always chomping at the bit for a rant. Greg's like me; he just waits for a rant.
I've talked about Shadow City a lot. I'm fine with talking about all kinds of things.
Okay,
something I might have a strong opinion on.
Oh, we could probably find something you can rant on here.
Which do we want to delve into first, Mike? You got one that you're chomping at?
You had a good. I caught up on all your. I was a little tired today with 103-degree heat in Texas, and I ran errands. I was tired. I came home, I laid down, and I said, "What can I do to kill some time? I'm going to watch Eric Tenkar's last few videos." And so you had a couple of pretty good ones there. What's the deal on the itch.io thing? That's crazy, man.
I knew nothing about it until Sunday when Grim Jim Desborough brought it up, and it affects Jim because Jim writes adult content.
Adult content,
and we would have called it juvenile content back in the day, but it's adult content because if you were going to sell stuff like that on drive-through, it would be like most of venture stuff behind the 18 and older paywall. When we were younger, that's like when you went to the video store and you had to go behind the curtain to see the adult movies. Yeah. And then you felt really scuzzy if you did. Well, nobody's watching you go behind the adult curtain at drive-through, except for the guys at drive-through, and then maybe you feel scuzzy. But in any case, itch.io and Steam has apparently gotten into There was a group in Australia that decided that there was a game that they found offensive, and since it was offensive, they were going to start basically an online protest against specifically itch.io for selling the game. And they leveraged their loudness to twist the arms of payment processors, PayPal and Stripe. And if you know anything about payment processors, is they don't want drama. They don't want drama at all. In the States, my example that I gave is being a gun shop. A lot of gun shops have been, what do you call it, deplatformed. They've lost their payment processors because they're selling firearms, and firearms are no bueno. So Stripe and PayPal said, we will not allow these products to be purchased using our processor. We won't be the platform for you to process these sales. And what the article I read, Rascal News does a decent job of finding some interesting stuff out, and I appreciate their coverage, but their articles are very biased often, and the bias here is like, and they should have just told the payment processors to go pound sand. Sure, and then you're out of business. Who actually owns the cards? It isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't the storefront. All right, the storefront doesn't hold the power here.
Right.
It's the payment processors. Itch.io and even Steam are dropping the bucket to their larger businesses they deal with. They can afford to tell Itch.io, you can't sell this, and if you do, we're going to withdraw our services from you.
Sure. I mean, yeah, that one needs one more than the other. In that case, yeah, you can't really tell them to pound sand because they're gonna, they don't need you. You need them. They don't need you. But I mean, it's still bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just, I mean, look, the stated purpose is, I'm sure, we don't want minors to get their hands on games that have mature content. But does this ever really work very well? I mean, when I was a kid, you could get your hands on issues of Playboy. Another generation, when kids in the 80s, they could watch porn. I mean, it wasn't too hard to figure out how to get really bad stuff on your TV. I mean, it's kind of a losing battle, really. I mean, you're not going to be able to prevent a determined minor that's, say, a kid's 16 years old, is going to be able to get their hands on really anything they want to get their hands on.
This is another example of a very vocal minority. Yep. They are a minority. But they're very vocal, and the louder you scream, especially in today's day and age, often the more power that you coalesce around yourself. And an Australian group is dictating what Americans can buy, which is pointed out by the comments on my video.
Yeah, that's the crazy part of it. That's one of the crazy
Australia has banned Grand Theft Auto, the video game.
Really?
So, yeah, I actually think in some of these cases, the best strategy is I would have said this even if he hadn't just been canceled, but the Stephen Colbert strategy from the original time frame, which is agree and amplify, right? So they say, hey, we should ban anybody from buying role-playing games that have these sexual stuff. And you say, yes, and we should ban Game of Thrones and Sopranos and all that stuff. Let's ban it all right now. And then they'll go, oh, wait a minute. No, we can't make these decisions. The thing is that they're always focused on some specific thing, a weak person in the market who can't protect whatever it is.
Right.
You just agree and amplify it up to where somebody with actual power goes, haha, nope, and then shuts that shit down. Because nobody should be able to determine what we all are able to buy. Like a more clear-cut case of antitrust is hard to find. you can't even use money if these people disagree with you. Okay, the end. Get rid of those people.
Especially if you're an adult. If you're an adult, you should be able to do adult things.
That's
Sorry.
right. So if they have a big enough monopoly that if they refuse to process your payments for you, you can't do business, then break it. We have legal remedy for that. Let's just do it. It's just a matter of getting somebody to bring the court action. Eric, I heard you love going to court.
Oh yeah.
You could get involved here.
Ouch. Nah,
Yeah.
I've had my fun in the sun. It's okay, man. Somebody else can step into this one.
Well, this is why monopolies are so insidious. You know, for years and years and years, the only payment method that eBay would accept was PayPal, and PayPal because they own PayPal, and so PayPal had a stranglehold. If you got sideways with PayPal, you were so screwed. I mean, it was scary because sometimes people got sideways for the wrong reason that wasn't even their fault. Like let's say I took a $600 payment from a guy. It turned out the guy was also dealing drugs on the side. PayPal could cancel my account, and I didn't have anything to do with that. It's just that they're going to play it safe, and anybody this guy bought from, they're going to go ahead and cancel their accounts to make sure none of them were drug dealers. And that kind of stuff's happened before. And there was absolutely you're just screwed. Well, nowadays at least we have all these other payment methods, especially online, that and also PayPal is not part of eBay anymore, which is good. And so now you have other places you can go to, and you can't just be like, okay, well, I can't use PayPal. I'm totally screwed. I had friends that were on eBay for various reasons. They got sideways at PayPal, and PayPal just canceled them. They had to have accounts through other people's names just to run eBay accounts for years. They had to have through their wife's name or their grandmother's name, or just stuff just because they had to have a PayPal account.
All this stuff is hypocritical inherently, because like I remember when there was an issue, which you can guess, but there was an issue where all of these celebrities came out and said how horrible North Carolina was for doing a thing, and then they went and had concerts in communist China. Okay, well. You can't say on this one issue, I insist that everybody do the thing I want. Meanwhile, I'm going to go use a device that's made under questionable conditions in a faraway place and brought here under all kinds of circumstances. But you can't look at this thing that I don't like, right? They're inherently going to be hypocrites by doing this. So that's my suggestion for anybody that's affected is agree and amplify and squeeze as hard as you can. Say, take it up. Say these people are right. We should remove everything from this website. Oh well, wait. Well, we can't do that. How are we going to make decisions? Exactly. You don't make decisions. You let people do what they want to do. James Raggi had that video where he was talking about censorship that went relatively recent, like this year. And he said, can you imagine how insane you would have to be to take on the job of policing all of this material? Like you really want to be the person everybody comes to make their case about whether this or that should be approved or not? Like nobody should want that job. Yeah. And the only reason why they think they want that job is because they think it's just going to be about one issue, and they can, that's my decision. So just keep bringing issues to them until it becomes decision anarchy. Like I can't make all these decisions. Exactly. You can't make all these decisions for everyone. That's why we have freedom.
Well, that's been a useful tactic the last few years too, to get things done or get things stopped, is to basically, well, what about this? What about this? And what about this? And then everybody kind of steps back and says, oh, yeah. We didn't think about that. We didn't think it would affect that. We didn't think about this. It would affect this thing that I like. I wanted to stop the thing that you liked, but now you're saying the thing that I like is going to be stopped.
Like I would reach out to PayPal and say, you need to stop any transaction that involves the buying or selling of anything related to Game of Thrones because it has incest in it. They're not going to want to do that. You need to stop doing this. You need to stop and just keep thinking of things. Just keep filling in, like there was some kind of reporting system that the British came up with where people could report some kind of bad behavior. And on the first day, people submitted like 20 million false reports just to flood the system with all the reports. So they couldn't possibly decide.
That's actually been a tactic that both politically conservatives and liberals have used against the other successfully. Because, for instance, they had a not to get political, I'm just saying this is just what happened. Texas had an abortion hotline where somebody there was a bounty on people that wanted to get abortions in state, and somebody wanted to get abortion. You called this hotline and turned them in. You got it was like I don't know $1,000 bounty. It's because the outlaw was abortion. Well, quick thinking liberal progressives just flooded the hotline with fake reports, thousands of them, to where they just 2 days they had to shut it down in 2 days. They couldn't run it, and I believe there's an example of conservatives do that to liberals also, where they had a hotline report this behavior. Okay, we're just going to make up report. We're going to report all this behavior. They just kept calling in, and after a while,
it worked for Bodie McBoatface. Remember when they were like, we're going to name this boat, and so everybody submitted Bodie McBoatface. Like that. Overload the system with whatever they're trying to control.
Right.
That's the solution.
A funny example is so David Bowie. This is 2025 concert tour. That shows you how long ago it was. It was before, like 20 years before he even died. He had a farewell concert tour. It was a greatest hits concert, and you called into a hotline. This is like the mid '90s. Before internet was big. You called in a hotline and you named the 3 songs you wanted him to play. And so, of course, obviously it's going to be his greatest hits, right? After when you start collating his greatest hits. Well, someone in England started this. He was a performer. His name was David Jones. And he had some like really minor pop hits in the 60s. There was a song called the Happy Little Fairy, and it was a goofball, just goofy song, the happy little fairy pops along the path, and it was, it was before he was David Bowie. Well, so people started calling in that song, and people started calling that song. They started rising up the ranks, and people actually thought they were going to get Bowie to sing the Happy Little Fairy, a song he probably had never performed online or on stage since like 1967. They were going to make him do it. And so at a certain point, it just disappeared off the list. and Bowie said, ain't going to do that. Not doing Happy Little Fairy. And so they had a little thing saying, we're not taking any votes for Happy Little Fairy. Because it had reached critical mass at that point. People were like, man, but you got to hear Bowie's greatest hits. You got to hear Heroes and Jiggy Stardust. Oh, yeah, and the Happy Little Fairy. The song that nobody knows.
Apparently it could be one or 2 songs, according to AI.
Okay.
It could be There Is a Happy Land from his 1967 debut album, or The Laughing Gnome.
The Laughing Gnome. It was I'm sorry, I said it was The Laughing Gnome, Eric. Yeah.
Okay.
The Laughing Gnome. That was Davy Jones, right? That wasn't even Bowie, I don't think. I don't think he was even Bowie at the time. The Laughing Gnome, and it's a terrible song. I'm a gigantic Bowie collector. I have all his albums. It's an absolutely horrific song. It would have been worth it to see him try to perform that on stage along with his greatest hits. He's going to do Suffragette City and Rebel and Heroes, and here's the Laughing Gnome, Space Oddity, right between Space Oddity and Suffragette City. We're going to throw the Laughing Gnome in there. But it reached critical mass, and then they said, not going to do it.
Eric, are you hearing what I'm hearing? This is a potential thing for Mike to sing at the next North Texas.
Yeah. Oh my God! For the midnight auction, or at least have the song play. Here's what you got to do. So when you have that pre-music playing, just have that song in rotation. Just non-stop.
I don't even remember how. I just remember it's a terrible song. I'm looking.
I would play it, but I am quite sure I'll get demonetized the moment I do.
You'll be absolutely demonetized. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's on YouTube. So if you want to see what,
cool. Like if the auction raises a certain amount of money, Mike has to sing the gnome song. Yeah.
The laughing gnome. How about not? How about never? Will never happen. That's. I'm going to put that one in the
there
will
could
never
be a
happen
gnome
category.
outfit for him.
And
yeah.
Oh, yeah, but that's we're moving further into never happen territory. So yes, if you want to go see David Bowie, see if you can make it through the whole song. Because if I remember correctly, it's so bad is that there's by the way, it's kind of a long running joke in the UK. People would go to his concert, or not the UK, but just people would go to his concerts and they'd be in the front row or something. They start yelling, "Play the Laughing Gnome." Just one of those things. And Bowie would like flip them off and stuff. I mean, that's how much he hated the song.
Going to draw you as the laughing gnome.
He was like, he didn't like that joke. He did not like that joke at all. He would give him a hard. It's like, nope, not playing the laughing gnome.
Mike, Fugly's going to draw you as the laughing gnome now.
Oh, yes. Stop! See what you've created here. And the thing is, Fugly will do it in like 10 minutes too, and it'll be on. Yeah.
All right,
well, I don't like this way this conversation went.
There we go.
That's Frank. So Frank on the left. Yeah. Frank. Look how Frank was styling. Gold lame shirt and that white hat. He was styling.
What the hell was with that shirt?
Wow.
He was styling, baby. That's not even the best picture. There's another picture I couldn't find where he's wearing a big giant wide brim hat. And he's got like a multicolored shirt on it. It's kick ass. You're just mad because Frank has got better effect. No, don't be too jealous. Don't be jealous.
Maybe that's what I should wear to the next convention I go to.
I think you should.
I mean, I guess one advantage of that shirt is that if you drop any food on it, it will slide right off.
It's a very slippery shirt.
I hear the jealous. I hear jealousy all through this. I hear jealousy coming through there because he can pull that off and Eric can't. Eric cannot pull that off. Maybe Eric should wear this outfit to the convention. But why don't you try to wear? That's
no.
Instead of me singing the last
of him in the boa.
I wonder if Fugly could draw Eric wearing that outfit. Fugly, wink, wink. I wonder if he could do that.
Yeah,
draw Frank in that, or draw Eric in that outfit.
It's not Ron Jeremy, by the way.
Draw Eric in that.
Ron Jeremy.
Oh man.
The badger. He's with the badger.
No, that was a very nice gentleman. I don't remember his name, but he's a big game guy.
Mark Tomarino.
Yeah.
I know it's Mark T.
Maybe,
I can never.
Maybe AI could draw Eric with that beard and the hat and the shirt. What do you think, Mike? You could get it in Grok.
I think somebody that has AI, calling all AI experts out. I think somebody could easily put Eric in that position. I mean, I'd say don't do it because it would be embarrassing. But people will do stuff, just because they want to do it. So I don't know. I would never call for that. I would never call for my minions to do that.
I would never
I get embarrassed. Mike, who wore the fucking lobster suit on?
It wasn't that was first of all crab suit. Get your suits correctly.
Whatever.
You did wear the crab suit, but you know what? I think Kurt Gould wears it better, Eric. I'm sorry, Kurt.
Oh, he certainly does, but I got to sweat it up.
Yes.
Now there's Zach's sweat and my sweat.
The DNA in that crab outfit. Whoa. You and Zach and Kurt Gould all mixed together.
Probably.
All right. So what else did you talk about this week that was interesting? Because you had some more interesting stuff that's
Indiegogo and the company that I always forget the name of. Hold on. The crowd. So
the story here was that they're challenging Kickstarter. But Indiegogo is already a thing. I don't get it. I don't.
Right. Well, here's the thing. So it's GameFound, which does a lot of like board games, and GameFound aren't they the ones that had to deal with Gygax games that never went anywhere? I believe so. Could be wrong. And Indiegogo certainly has been around, but they've always been the redheaded stepchild. Okay, they've never been the backer kit came right into spot number 2 the moment they came on the scene. So this is a bit of a challenge for Kickstarter and BackerKit. It's certainly what. Oh my god. Oh my god. You had to raise money. It raised good money. We raised
This is
good
just
money.
how I like to do it.
Right?
Oh, yes. Nice.
Listen, good money for St. Jude's, right? I mean, a good way. I had fun. Shannon had fun, and I think Joe had
This
more
was a
fun
few
than the rest
folks
of
that
us.
don't know. This was a couple years ago, last year, a couple years ago, and
Yep.
when you had to
About
dress up
two or
and
three
do
years ago.
yoga. Oh,
Yes.
that was so classic.
And whether I was a rocker or a wrestler from the '80s is open to interpretation. Or I could have been Richard Simmons.
See, I thought
I
you were
don't know.
vibing that Richard Simmons vibe. Honestly, I thought you.
Well, Richard Simmons and maybe one of the wrestlers from the time, but where the
I'm
heck
just
you get
looking
that
through
one
my
from?
archives here. I've got
Oh
Eric
my
telling you to
God.
shush. You know.
But by the way, I just happened to run across an article. So that contest where they picked the song, The Laughing Gnome actually finished at #1. And then Bowie said, I'm not playing it. It actually finished at #1 over all his classic songs. And he just said, nope,
Wow.
not doing it. Not doing it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so get back to the Indiegogo. I can't stand looking at that.
Indiegogo got bought out, Mr. Gunn. They were acquired. It's not a merger of equals. Okay, this was GameFound buying out Indiegogo, and they're going to integrate the companies. And I think GameFound brings more to the table than Indiegogo does, but I don't think that many people knew GameFound. I think GameFound was, they're a European company, if I recall correctly, like Norwegian or Swedish or something like that. So I think that buying out Indiegogo gets them closer to the American market, at least, So it's going to be interesting. I mean, honestly, Indiegogo, I used to go there weekly to check for RPG releases, and I haven't gone in probably close to a year. It's been.
I know Frog God used to use
or
Necromancer game. That's right. Use them.
Yeah,
Necromancer used them quite a bit, and
one of the advantages of Indiegogo is that you can, depending on how the creator sets things, you could occasionally use PayPal to make purchases, and that was cool. But they also have what they called flexible funding goals, which meant that you didn't have to hit a goal to fund. Money was collected as it went on, and if your goal was 10,000 and you raised 500, well, that was it. You raised 500. Nobody's probably getting anything, and you're walking away with the money. And just as a side note, a certain company that no longer exists, but has existed in 3 different incarnations to some extent, used Indiegogo to fund their legal actions, and it didn't work well. So just
boy, let's be obscure there, but I think we all know where we're going.
All right, if you don't know, I can't tell you.
It didn't work out well, no. So don't.
It didn't make billions of dollars or millions. It lost a lot of money, but you got to be in it to win it, right?
So sad. So sad. Too bad.
So sad. Too bad. My heart bleeds. It bleeds. I tell you. Trying to think what else is going on in the world. Separate like side. Go ahead.
I can talk about EggCon for a second.
Yeah, talk about EggCon. Let's hear.
Well, EggCon this is the second annual EggCon in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, birthplace of D&D, home of Gary Gygax. His daughter Heidi runs it with Eric Garland, and this is the second year they have it on the weekend of Gary's birthday. And I thought I like Wisconsin in the summer. It's very beautiful. The one time I went, so I thought I'd go again, and I got our buddy Zach Glazer to drive with me because we've made that drive together to go to Gary Con and Gamehole Con dozens of times.
Why are you the most organized
it's a different
man
drive
in the world? Is what I want to know.
That was a inside joke because I'm actually absolutely not. And Zach thought it'd be funny several years ago to make all these posts about the most organized man in gaming because we were on our way to, I think it was Gary Con, and he tricked up all these lists I would make, which weren't real, and he did all these things. He would take pictures of it, and so it just kind of stuck. That was his, because it's just so obviously ludicrous to consider me the most organized man in gaming. So he rolled with that, and now everybody makes up really fun memes having to do with it, and it's a joke. It's a joke. I'm not the most organized man anywhere. Not even my own office. I'm not the most organized man. But we were on our way, and we also, when we go to the Midwest, we like to partake of the pork loin. The pork loin, it's hard to find outside of the Midwest. Once you get out of Wisconsin, Iowa, Indiana, Missouri, that's the home, really the home of pork loins. Once you get out of there, we don't have any pork loins in Texas. The chicken fried steak kind of takes that place in Texas, basically. And so we always look for good pork loin restaurants to hit, and there's several really good ones. And so the joke of the pork loin is, it's a loin, and they pound it, and usually it's as big as a hubcap, and they put this tiny little bun on it. And it's like joke. So you get it served, you got this giant thing this big, and you got this tiny little bun on it. And of course, you can't eat it all unless you're a lunatic. And so, not that the bigger ones taste better, but it's funnier the bigger they get. So we had we had some good pork loins on the way there and the way back, actually. It was actually my first time to have a grilled pork loin, because one place we went to is out of the batter or the fried, and they had the pork, and it was actually pretty good. The grilled pork loin was pretty damn good. So we went there. It was at a place called the Harbor, and the Harbor, actually, I did not know this, or no, I'm sorry, the Cove was next door. The Cove, where they had first Gary Con, I believe, which I did not know that. And then,
really?
And they moved to a bigger place and then they finally moved to the Grand Geneva. So that had kind of a little historical significance to it. But the Cove and the Harbor are right next to each other. You have to walk back and forth, which wasn't the best plan, but it worked out. And so I saw quite a few special guests there. Alan Hammock was there. I don't play in a lot of games, so I decided I'm going to have a good time and hang out. This isn't my con. I can do whatever I want. So I played in Alan Hammock's Ghost Tower. It was awesome. The guy that wrote it, running it, it was great. We had a blast. We all lived. I think Alan took it a little easy on us. We only had one guy that pretty much died, basically. Then I played in Jeff Talanian's Hyperborea game. And for the life of me, so this game was famous because every time he's run it, it's been a TPK. And the reason it's been a TPK, this isn't even a spoiler. You're fighting a vampire in your third level. So you could possibly beat it if you knew exactly what to do at exactly the right time. But I told Jeff I think it's a cheat, because we were so prepared and ready for everything that would come. And all it takes is a couple bad rolls, and you're done in this adventure. But anyway, his World of Hyperborea is great. It's very it's just really cool because it's not like other D&D worlds. It's a flat Earth world. The ocean goes off the edges. It's crazy. There's one giant continent mill that's Hyperborea. It's based on the works of Howard, Clark Ashton Smith, and Lovecraft, and more than D&D, it's actually, that's what it's based on. There's no Tolkien-ish, bullshit in there. It's a hard, brutal, badass world. You only play humans. There's all non-humans are evil. Dwarves and elves, all that fairy crap. That's bad stuff. So you play different tribes of different types of humans. There's Celts. There's there's Nords, there's Picks, there's Anyway, that was a fun game. We had a blast, even though we all died. We had a blast in that game too. So it was fun. There was an auction. The auction raised about $7,500 for the scholarship fund that Eric and Heidi run. I saw a lot of friends. I saw Kim George. Kim George was there. She's not posting tonight because she's at Gen Con, so she's doing the Gen Con thing.
Okay.
But I got to talk with Jeff Easley for quite. I got Jeff Easley to sign a bunch of my stuff. I literally brought a whole box of stuff because Jeff hasn't been to my con in 2 or 3 years, and so I had to obviously bring all my Dragon magazines and get them signed by Jeff and all the ones he did covers for. And so I brought a lot of things that I've been storing up for the last few years for Jeff to sign. And then a couple other artists were there: Chris Arneson, Jeff Butler, Chet Benson. I talked to all of them. They had kind of a little mini artist alley. I talked to them. They were their artists are really cool dudes, and they were really nice guys. But all we did really was eat and game, which is cool. We ate a lot and we gamed a lot. And we went to all the historical locations in Lake Geneva, went to Gary's grave, went to Gary's childhood home. Then we went to his main house, and then we went on a tour there, actually. Yolanda, the lady that bought it, the story is hilarious. She bought it 20 years ago, not knowing what it was. And people kept pulling up outside and taking pictures and walk up to the door and knock on it. And she finally figured out it's this guy, Gary Gygax's house. And then Paul Stormberg finally got in touch with her, and they worked something out. So now they run games there. Like, you can rent out the living room. It's a tiny house too. I mean, as most houses were back then. It was Gary and his wife and 5 kids in that little tiny house before they moved. Well, once D&D hit it big, they moved to a bigger house, obviously. But we saw that house too. We saw his and Gail's house. Which, by the way, Eric, interesting information I haven't told you. So we went by the Dungeon Hobby Shop too. We went by Sarah Springs, but Dungeon Hobby Shop has contingently somebody's put an offer on it, a contingent offer on the Dungeon Hobby Shop. But not only that, Eric, somebody's also put a contingent offer on Gail's house. I am very curious if it's the same person, because that's the house that Gary died in, basically. That was the last house he lived in, the one he lived in with Gail. And so somebody, and we looked at the houses are overvalued in the market. I think the Dungeon Hobby Shop, they want $410,000 or $420,000, and it's only valued at $200,000. And then I can't remember Gail's, that they wanted more than what Gary's house was worth, but somebody has apparently put in an offer on both those houses. So you get the idea, I got the impression that the idea was somebody was going to buy them and monetize it. In other words, Airbnbs at Gary's house. How much? I don't know if you could make enough money, because we started figuring how much money you'd have to spend. It's like $1 million right there, and then to do work to fix it up. Who knows how much more money? So is it worth $1 million to buy both of those properties, fix them up, and try to monetize them? I mean, you could make money. I mean, the Dungeon Hobby Shop, you could turn that into something nice. It's right there in the Lake Geneva. It's right there in the main square. I mean, you could do something really cool with the Dungeon Hobby Shop. And then, of course, Gail's house, you could rent that out probably all year long to people that wanted to go stay in Gary's house. So I don't know, but that was an interesting little tidbit we found out while we were there. But yeah, so we went to the Horticultural Hall where the first Gen Con was. We went to, of course, the main TSR offices are downtown. It's an office building now. There's all these different businesses there, so it's really nothing to see there. It's just a building. There's not even a plaque or anything. There's actually a plaque now in front of the Horticultural Hall that has Gary's name and Mike Carr's name, because Mike Carr was the first one to. He was like the first person he was in charge of Gen Con the first year, which I didn't know. And so they had his name was on the plaque, and then the one underneath it was Gary's plaque. So that was kind of cool seeing all the historical locations. Kim George is a great tour guide. She just took us all around. We found, and there was a lot more that we didn't go to, but I'd been to some of them before. We went to the bench that Paul Stormberg and the committee had put. So we went to see the bench. It's actually in a really nice spot. It looks right out in the water. And then we saw the part where they're going to put the table. Remember, they want to put that big table there. Okay, it's actually that's in a really nice location also. Much better idea than that terrible statue idea, Eric. That was
The phones.
that would have been an awful idea. And it's in a really nice part of the park. I think if they put it there, it will attract a lot of attention. It's not an off. It looked like from the pictures I saw, it was kind of off in a corner. It's not. It's in a big main spot. Went to the library where they have the chair upstairs and they have the little section. That's kind of, there's not much to see there, but it's kind of cool. They have all the Appendix N books there. They've got the throne chair. I took a picture in that, and yeah. So it was there's just so many cool historical locations there. It's kind of fun to go there. And speaking of historical locations, we saw the bowling alley where Alan met his wife Sue years ago on a blind date. We actually stayed next to it, and every time Zach and I went by, we saluted it because it we couldn't believe there wasn't a plaque there that Alan met Susan here.
Wow.
But there was, which was
that
really
is
sad.
the kind of excitement that I missed by not going to this con. Yeah.
And so they said that the donations and auction got over $7,500. It's pretty good, and they have a scholarship fund. But I was told that there was over 300 people registered for the con. So, which if that's true, they did really well. I never saw that many people, and it's possible I missed a lot of people. I mean, that's what they said that's the tickets they said.
Is it possible that maybe like your memory's slipping or eyesight?
That's always a possibility, Greg. That is always a possibility.
There are other explanations.
It was never that crowded. It was never that crowded. The most crowded was the first night we had. There was a VIP dinner that we got. By the way, we got Bill and Ben's tickets. Bill Barsh and Ben didn't show up, so we got their VIP tickets, which was awesome. And we went to it was good. But nice. That room was pretty crowded. But there wasn't more than 100 people in that room, and actually probably a lot less than that. The way the convention was run was it wasn't optimal. That they had the harbor, which they had the vendor hall in it, and then below the first floor there was a bunch of rooms for games. And then if you went out the door there and walked across the parking lot into the cove and walked all the way down like 100 yards, that's where the game rooms were there. So getting back and forth was not easy. It was a long walk. So that was not optimal. That part was not optimal. But it seemed like there was plenty of room to game, and everybody seemed like they were having a great time. I saw a lot of people. I saw Bill Sylvie there. Just lots of people that we know. It wasn't that there was a bunch of big names there. I mean, Mike Carr was there, but I never saw him. I saw him one day, and I didn't get him to sign anything because I never ran into him again. He ran Dawn Patrol one day, and I missed that. But I saw a lot of people that we know. Like Alyssa Fab was there with Jack. Who else? Just people that we run into. Chuck Cumbo was there. I don't know if you remember who he's with Trollord Games. Super nice guy. He was there with his wife. It was just a very laid back, small con. It's the con that you just go to and you relax, have a good time. It's not high pressure. There's not all these things going on all the time. There were seminars, but everything was it was just really laid back. It was a great summer con just to go to and game and relax at. So I had a very good time there. I would go back probably. I don't know if I would go back next year, but I would go back at some point, definitely. That there was probably too much walking for me because I'm a big fat guy. I don't like to walk that much, but it wasn't overbearing. It was just like, oh my gosh, so we have to park here and walk all the way here. There's no parking on site at the hotel because it's right across the street from the lake. And so all these people try to park there so they can walk to the lake. So they have all these signs up. They tow all the time. They give tickets to. They do not want you. Wow. If you do not stay at those hotels, they do not want you parking there. So you have to park somewhere in the city and walk, or they have event parking, which is way on the other side of the cove, probably 200 or 300 yards over there. And that's where you have to park. So it was a lot of walking if you're a big fat guy. And gamers, there are a few of us that are big fat guys. So.
Well, it was probably the healthiest.
It was. My move ring went off. I told you the story it went off and said, "Congratulations, you have burned more calories than you have any other day you've had the move ring." I'm like, what the? And so I walked more that day than I probably have in 5 years. Ever since I got the phone, I rolled the phone.
however old that phone is. I walked more that day back and forth. But no, I mean, there's
You need
lots
like
of
a
great
Segway
places.
or a little scooter. You could just ride along.
Yeah, you could. That would have been I didn't see anybody doing that, which is weird. They do have e-bikes there, which people were driving very dangerously. And if you know the tragedy that happened to Cosmo Joe, apparently he was struck by an e-bike, and that eventually led to his death. You can see how that happened. There are people not paying attention. It's like, I don't know if you guys it's a typical tourist town. There's always people coming to town. All the locals hate them, but also if it wasn't for them, their business wouldn't be making any money. So it's this. I go to South Padre Island every year. It's the same thing. It's a love-hate relationship. You know, you love the business they bring, but you hate the fact they come in and they crap your town up. And that's kind of the dynamic that seems to be in place. Because for those who don't know, Lake Geneva was a resort town all the way back last century in the 20s. All the business people in Chicago, when Chicago would get too hot, they'd all take the train up or whatever to Lake Geneva. There was a lot of gangsters that had houses there. Not Pretty Boy Floyd. I don't. Not Dillinger. There was a lot of famous gangsters that had houses up there, and there was a lot of people. There's a lot of Chicago people that had houses there. And so it's been a resort town ever since then. But it's very much like I said there were probably 25 bachelorette parties going on that weekend. And the reason I know is because we were eating outside in front of the restaurants, and they would walk by in a big group, and they were loaded drunk, and they were giggling and stumbling, and they were wearing dresses that were way too short and heels that were way too high. And apparently they're considered the bane of Lake Geneva, bachelorette parties. Everybody hates them because they're just very annoying. And we probably must have seen 15 of them Friday and Saturday night, walking all around getting drunk and walking from a
How many
restaurant
did you dance at?
What now?
How many of those bachelorette parties did you dance at?
Only 2, Greg. I was already tired. I
heard they could get handsy.
I did well, but I made $55 at one of them. So the handsy versus the money I made, I was okay with that. I was saying this. I can say this. So if I was a 27-year-old single guy, I would absolutely go work in Lake Geneva for the summer because it would be fun. Let's put it that way. Because you're thinking, oh, it's a resort town in the middle of. You'd be so many good-looking women from go to these bachelorette parties from all over the state and Chicago and this and that. You would have a great summer. I'm just going to leave that out there. Any young man in the audience, which is probably not one person here under 30. If you're under 30 and single, go be a bar back in Lake Geneva for the summer, or work at a restaurant there. You will have a great summer. I'm just telling you right now. But no, so it was fun. We had a good time, and Heidi and Eric put on a really good show, and I hope it keeps going on. I really hope. There's a couple of things they probably need to improve or fix, and I'm going to write them a little note about stuff that I would look at and think about doing. But other than that, I thought it was great. I thought it was a fun little just con to relax to.
Did you see Wizard Tower Games comment, Mike? That was up.
No, I'm looking right now. I'm gonna. Yeah, I need Don. I will talk to you whenever you get a chance. I'm actually going to another convention next week, and I'm going to T-Fest in Austin. That's Ken and James, the artist. That's his first convention. So I'll be in not this weekend, but next weekend. I'll be in Pflugerville, which is north of Austin.
Pfluger.
Get to the Pfluger.
Yeah, Don, we will definitely talk about that. But no, there's a lot of old school. There's a lot of old school guys there too. That's kind of cool. I heard a lot of really cool stories. Some of them I had not heard before from just people talking. It was kind of cool. I got a lot of stuff signed by Jeff, and there was a lot of table talk between Jeff and Jeff Butler and Chris Arneson. So I heard some pretty fun stories, just some interesting stuff about working on. I gave him a couple of Endless Quest books that easily done the covers of, and so they had, and then Butler had done the interiors, so they both worked on them, and so they had some good stories about those. Just interesting little fly on the wall stories which I always love to hear, obviously. So, I recommend it. Look, if you're in the area, I don't know if it's worth traveling a super long distance there because it is expensive to stay there in the summer. That's the prime season. We stayed at the Comfort Inn, which was reasonable.
Gary Con is there too, right?
Gary Con's there, but Gary Con is actually at the Grand Geneva, which is that's the biggest place to hold a convention in town. And even then, it's full. It's absolutely packed full at Gary Con. But Gary Con's in
February. What time
February.
of year is that then, though?
February, and you could have blizzards because I have been there during a blizzard. That's the one bad thing about Gary Con is just the weather.
Wait, only
they have the
one
fact that the venues. Luke knows this. It's too small. He wants, and he could get 10,000 people there if it was big enough, and it's not. And so he has between 3,000 and 4,000. And it's very crowded, and it's just jam-packed full. There's not enough rooms. The rooms sell out immediately. I mean, but there's I don't know what you can do.
90 miles from the nearest
Lake Geneva.
airport.
Driving in, that's why driving in was awesome because we didn't have to deal with that crap.
Wow.
We just drove in. But I'll tell you, Lake Geneva in the summer is really beautiful. So anyway, so I had a good time. I will try to go back, but it's not on my must-go list. Like something like North Texas, obviously. Well, I have to go to North Texas. But, I usually go to Long Con. I'll always go to Long Con. It's easy to go. It's only 2.5 hour drive. I like Gary Con, but I don't think I'm going to be able to go because I can't get a room there anymore. And we had dinner with Alex Kamer on the way up. Zach and I did, and he's Gamehole. I'll be going to Gamehole this fall. Alex had some great stories that I can't repeat about game stuff going on at Gamehole. And Gamehole is a must go for me. Also, I really like Gamehole. And that's and I'm really glad that Alex moved it to October where the weather's nice. It's a beautiful convention to go to. It's gorgeous in Wisconsin in October, right before the weather gets bad, right before everything goes to hell, and then you got 6 months of hell. October's perfect, but summer was gorgeous there. So I'll give it a thumbs up to Heidi and Eric. They did a good job.
All right,
I'm done.
You're done.
I'm done with my gear.
No, the cat. She took a spot at my hand. I'm like, all right, you're done.
Oh, the cat's. Yeah, the cat was the star of the show right there. Good Lord.
Yeah, no, she's like, you're not paying enough attention to me. What are you talking to these people for? Come on. Oh,
Roger's right. By the way, Roger's right. Gary Con's in March, not February. I was thinking of Total Con. Total Con's in February. Gary Con's in March.
It's all the same when it comes to Wisconsin.
But it's still terrible. Yeah, the weather's still awful most of the time. A couple of years I've went, it's been really nice. But a couple of years I've been, it's been absolute hell. So
you want beautiful weather? Central New York in June.
Absolutely. Central New York Con's where you want to go.
I've heard that it's good.
Sure.
I see Roger's in the chat too.
Yeah. Roger. I heard Roger did a great job. I've only heard positives about the con. So
I think all his vendors want to come back, and new ones want to join in.
And Roger, and for what Roger said, he made money. You don't ever make money your first 2 years of your con. You don't. You're just sit there. You just know I'm going to lose money the first 2 or 3 years, but then we're going to start getting it back. No, he did great. So that's amazing. He did a great job.
Well, I think this is a good place to naturally wrap up before the cat comes back and decides.
Show her butt to the audience again.
Oh, that was my prior cat. She used to do that all the time. Butt right to the camera. It's like, thank you. Yeah.
By the way, I haven't talked to you in person since your cute little doggy passed away. I want to say how sorry I was. That's always tough, man. That's a tough one.
It was. And we had 3 vet visits in that 1 week. 2 of them were to the ER vet. And one was a specialist. And she's a Dachshund. She was a Dachshund, so they're prone to a slip disc, back issues. And when she couldn't move her hind legs, when she couldn't go to the bathroom, I was like,
Eric, the
"You
same
can't."
thing happened with my dachshund. It's exactly what you said. Exactly happened to mine. That they said the same thing. You've just got to put her to sleep. It's just a terrible thing that happens to dachshunds. Their
Yeah.
back, their body style, their back legs go out eventually, and it's just really awful. And so, that's terrible, man. You hate that, I know.
Greg,
Thanks for
thank you
having
for
me.
joining us.
Yes. And the Kickstarter runs for another few weeks.
Yeah, it runs to the 21st. And one thing I've been open about this with people, but like the funding goal, I didn't have like anything. Yeah, it's already written, it's already set up. So for me, the whole experience is like, is it a better deal for me to do it as a Kickstarter versus just doing it the way I was doing it before? And so far, because it's all going to be front loaded, like in terms of being a return on investment, it is. But the question is, if I want to do in the future, like offset printing and stuff like that as well. So it's just been an experiment for me. I don't have any expectation, and it's been going well. So one of the things that people do is they look purely at like the dollar amount of the thing, and like since mine is just like a $20 buy-in and there's not really a lot of buy-ups, the dollar value doesn't seem that big. But a lot of people might have a big number, but then their overhead and their cost of production is coming out of that is massive, and then they're not clearing that many dollars per unit. So for me, this is almost entirely a return rather than anything going into overhead. So it's very, it's a very good return for me for a 2-day, 3-day period. Like that's great. So I'm doing fine.
Well, good
I'm
luck.
optimistic we're going to get to
funded.
even bigger. We got 20 days.
You have that link there. Is the link up there? It is Shadow City. Yep.
Yep. So the link's on the bottom of the screen, folks. 10cards-tavern.game/SC. I'll take you to the Shadow City Kickstarter. So, Greg, again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending my birthday
You're welcome,
with
buddy.
me.
Yes. We didn't get you a cake. I'm sorry, no cake.
And I got a cannoli in the fridge.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
I'm good. I'm good. Mike, good to see you again. Welcome back from EggCon.
I got a busy next few weeks though, so I'll be on the show. I should be on the show again.
Okay. So folks, here I'm
this cons. I don't have any midweek cons. Maybe not till Game Hall.
All right, cool. So folks, this over here is a QR code. If you wish to become a member and support this channel, it's an excellent way to do so. And apparently you use your phone. I've only figured out QR codes in the last year. I always say, what the hell is this? I'm like, look at that.
Yeah, that's how it works.
All right. Yeah. That's how it works. So, folks, next live stream is tomorrow night. I'll be with Don and Tom. And Friday night should be Glenn. And Saturday will be Rachel and I. So yes, we got a full week of lives. So folks, as always, be safe, be well, God bless, roll those dice, roll them well. I'll see many